Welcome to Melt University. This series will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Now, here's your host, the president and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students. Virtual, not summer, but virtual Melt University. We're continuing to roll on with tremendous podcasts, tremendous guest talent, topics, world of sports, business of sports. It's just been amazing as we move into our 50th podcast. You're going to hear a lot of great ones coming down the line, but probably none other than this one. Not only is one of the best people that you'll ever know, one of my dearest friends, but he's also the 38th most powerful sports marketer in the country, as stated by the Sports Business Journal. He is John Mount, who is with the Coca-Cola Company, and he currently serves as the Vice President of Sports Marketing and Assets. And that is a somewhat of an understatement of a title when you consider our dear friends at Coca-Cola, our dear clients for 2 decades, the most iconic brand in the world, way back, the longest Olympic sponsor, 1928. We're going to hear from Dina Gerson, head of Olympic marketing at Coca-Cola, very soon. But I think, John's going to provide a lot of amazing insight. But he's also a former student athlete. Played quarterback at Denison University, graduated there, history and economics. He's also a great alumni of Fighting Irish, MBA from Notre Dame, great family man. We met in 2005, have been friends going into our second decade, started his career with Nabisco, at the time the Nabisco Biscuit Company, and then rose to a nearly 20-year career at the Coca-Cola Company, where we first managed to meet one another, which was a great day for me. He has risen through the ranks, was in charge of all of their major retail accounts, as we've talked about many times with some of our Coca-Cola guests, of how the fascinating operation of the Coca-Cola world works, with mothership, the bottlers, the distributors, the key customers, how they interact with all these amazing sponsorships. The Coca-Cola Company sponsors most major sports platforms, PGA, NASCAR, NCAA, NHRA, the Olympics, as we stated, ESPN College Game Day, and many, many others. So, John, welcome to virtual Melt University.
Well, thank you, Vince. Wow. I got to take you everywhere with me. You are the absolute best hype man I've ever heard in my life. And I would expect nothing less, of course. And what an honor it is to join you for would you say this is the 50th podcast?
Yeah. It's been amazing. We've had a lot of great Coke people. We've had, of course, Jim Dinkins. We've got Dina coming up. We've had Jamel Hester. We've had a lot of Coke marketing veterans and alums. Coke's a great breeding ground for that. Had Jeff Cottrell on. We had Shannon Watkins on. We had Tia Cummings on. We had T.J. Abrams on.
Wow.
We've had just Seth Freeman. It's been amazing, and the students have been just amazing feedback and very appreciative to what we're doing in this crazy COVID world, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But one thing that we always lead with in any of our interviews is the word passion, and whatever career, whatever activity that you're going to pursue, you've got to pursue it with great passion and zeal. And clearly, as a student athlete in high school and then moving into college, you had a passion for sports. You've always had a passion for sports, and it's sort of ironic that you wound up, in sports marketing at the Coca-Cola Company. But talk about whatever it is, that pursuit of passion, particularly early on in your college career. How important is that?
I think it's super important. First and foremost, hey, I just want to commend you for what you're doing here. I think you're offering a great service to
Thank you.
tons of students with this Melt U, and to do it the way that you're doing it. I know it's been tough with COVID, not being able to bring in all the students that you've brought in historically, and it's been a real game changer, I know, for them. But doing it this way, I think, is super smart. I
Thank
would
you.
tell you that having passion for whatever you do, it's critical. A movie that had a great impact on my life 20 so years ago was Jerry Maguire, and listening to the great sports figure that was his mentor. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was like, you got to have something that wakes you up every single day, that makes you run. And have that passion to want to go out and win. And I'm a big believer in whatever it is that you put your mind to, whatever it is that you want to go do, you got to show up every day to play to win and have that fire in your belly. And I'll just tell you, I definitely get satisfaction out of winning, but man, my stomach really burns when I lose. I think I hate losing more than I like winning.
Well, and we'll talk about that a little bit too, because one thing that has emerged is that the definition one theme that's emerged among the many themes is that failure is only defined as the failure to try. You're going to get knocked off the saddle. You're going to be in the tumble cycle. You're going to you're gonna lose. You're going to get told no, and really you're defined by how you respond to that, because it's always fun to be a winner and it's easy to take a victory lap, but talk about hating to lose and the definition of hating to lose, but also the having no fear in pursuing your passion and not being afraid to fail or lose.
Well, when I first grew up in the CPG industry and started with Nabisco, being told no was common, right? And you've got to be able to recognize that actually, if you're going to be a great salesperson, you got to be okay with being told 9 out of 10 times no.
Mm-hmm.
And that just means to get to more yeses, you got to ask even more, and you can't be afraid of asking more. I think the hating to lose is really more, from a definition for me, it's really more about competition.
Mm-hmm.
I love to compete. Grew up in Cincinnati, huge Pete Rose fan. You can say what you want about Pete Rose.
Love Pete Rose. Love Pete Rose.
But that man, wanted to win every single time he put on the uniform. And it was hard. He would talk about, as I was growing up, he always said it was hard for me to just go out and play a pickup basketball game, or go out and, have fun with my buddies and play some sort of a game without always competing. And, as I've gotten older in life, I've definitely toned that piece down. But early on, that's what fueled me was, the opportunity to compete with the prize at the end. So that's kind of how I defined it.
And you hit on a couple of other things that we've unpacked a lot, and I want you to unpack it a little bit as well. So people ask me what I do for a living. People ask you what you do for a living. I say I'm in the rejection business. I mean, we get told no 9 out of 10 times, and we have a saying within Melt University that the letters NO don't spell the word no. It's the first 2 letters of not yet. And in it, particularly with students looking for internships and entry-level jobs in a post-COVID world, it's going to be brutal out there, because my theory is you're going to have more unemployed higher level people in marketing services who are willing to take a lesser job for a lesser wage to get back in the game, which is further going to depress the entry-level job market. And so, not that I want to tell the students to get used to to hearing the words no, but you got to be relentless in the pursuit. You got to make, it's a fishing analogy, 100 casts to get maybe 6 or 8 bites to land 1 or 2 fish. And the other thing, and I wish I had learned this a lot earlier, and I wish I'd still take my own advice today, is that you can't take any of this exercise personal. You cannot
Nope.
take the word no personal. So talk a little bit more about um, some of that philosophy, because like I said, you're kind of a natural born salesman. And so factoring into that process is just, hey, you're not going to win every deal. You're not going to close every sale. You're not going to win every pitch. And you gotta get key takeaways from that as we move forward, particularly like I said, in the job market, it's going to be just brutal.
Yep. So I graduated from Denison in '91. I appreciate you talking about me being a quarterback back then. And I encourage all the students that are listening to this to go Google the single wing offense and figure out where the quarterback played, because it wasn't a traditional quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But needless to say, I came out of high school as a quarterback and wanted to play quarterback in college. And I quickly became the leading blocker and the outlet receiver in an offense. But it was part of the passion that fueled me. I wanted to play. I wanted to be on the field. I couldn't stand to be on the sidelines. So, that was an important component to me. But listen, I think, for students that are in college now, the best advice that I can give you is you really want to get to know your career center leadership. And the Career Center leadership for me at Denison was fantastic. I got to know them. They advocated for me on my behalf. But I went through probably 50 different interviews. I interviewed with the Milliken Company right down the road here in LaGrange, Georgia. I thought I was going to get that job. I went through a lot of interviews with them and ultimately didn't get the job. But each interview taught me something different. The Milliken interview was a great example of I met with a lower level leader who was probably going to be the guy I would have reported to. And we had a great interview. And I asked 30 questions. And the second interview I had was with his boss. And I met with that person. And I asked like 5 or 6 more questions. And then I met with the big boss, and I didn't ask any questions because all my questions have been answered in the first 2 interviews. But that signaled to that gentleman,
Wow.
that I didn't seem to be interested, right? So anyway, I say all that to say, get in as many interviews as you can get, because every one of them's a learning opportunity. Every one of them, look, out of the 50 interviews, I had 47 no's, and I got 3 yeses. And ultimately chose to go to work for Nabisco. The other opportunity was General Mills, and another opportunity with a company that was just emerging in the car space on Consumer Reports. But definitely, don't, like you said, I've stolen your line many a times of NO's, just first 2 letters and not yet. I love that. And don't be discouraged by it. Learn from it. That's the best advice I can give.
Well, to your point, you always want to go, and I want to talk about some of these tricks of the trade in the interview process, because you've been on in the pitch process, because you've been on both sides of the table many times, and 2 or 3 of the tricks that we talk about, and the tricks of the trade that are coming out in my upcoming book, Build Brand You. But do your homework, be prepared, know your target. Look for emotional cues in the office. Look for emotional cues and commonalities with low-hanging fruit, such as, hey, John, I went to Notre Dame, and you went to Notre Dame, or not just hey, I'm a great person here, hire me for X amount of dollars, but build that emotional bond. If it's a virtual environment or real environment, look them in the eye. Talk about, you're one of the most successful closers and sales and marketing professionals in the country. So share some of your inside baseball, some of your tricks of the trade.
I think first and foremost, it's a little bit of an old adage, but you have to build some common ground. You need to build a relationship. And I think that's kind of what you were getting at to begin with. I was fortunate enough, and I realized that early, being a sales rep, how important it was to spend the extra 5 minutes with a backdoor receiver who could have made or break you by accepting an order. Building a relationship with a store manager that long term would enable me to be the go-to person. We didn't have cell phones back then. We had pagers, but that I'd get that page and be able to be the one who could get there and put up the incremental display. But it's really about building that relationship. And the way you build that relationship is based off of trust. They have to trust you. You tell them you're going to be there at a certain time, you need to be there at a certain time. You tell them that you're going to do something, your follow through has got to be precise. So, starting out, those were some of the things that I learned early on that were really important. But I was fortunate enough that there was an emerging discipline in the mid '90s called category management, and I was fortunate enough to go with a couple folks in my office at the time to one of the first category management conferences. There's a guy named Brian Henry who started this in collaboration with Kroger, and it became a principle that a lot of companies adopted. But what I learned from it and was the best thing that came of it was fact-based selling. The more you could get, you could use facts. Facts are friendly. The more you could use facts, the more successful you'll be in persuading others to want to take on and enable your idea to come to fruition. So, those were some of the things that I learned early. And then, I think another big trick and another big tool of the trade is how do you brainstorm and live in a world of what's possible? How do you live in a world of what's possible? No idea is a bad idea. And when you get into those situations, I really learned this from a great Denison grad in Disney chairman and CEO at the time, Michael Eisner. I read his book back in the early 2000s, and he used to bring his whole crew together when he was running ABC Network, and they would just brainstorm show ideas, and no one was allowed to bring in any devices, anything that could distract you, but spend that time really coming up and brainstorming big ideas. It's funny, in Melt, you guys are great at this. We come to you frequently for these opportunities. You'll bring us 8, 10 ideas. Only 2 or 3 will stick. But I like to call those other 6 or 7 ideas, they just haven't landed yet, right? And everybody's seen that Christmas special where, Santa goes to pick up the toys that are on the Land of the Misfit Toy Island. But those are exactly what those are. They're Land of the Misfit toys that just haven't found a home yet. We discard big ideas left and right that we need to continue to be reminded they're great ideas. Their time just hasn't landed.
Well, and by the way, and I think, and I'll use you and me as a sort of a poster child for that. But you and I and our teams, we you hit on it. We always look into the realm of what is possible, not what is impossible. And we pulled off some giant marketing coups just based on some crazy ideas that others would say, well, that's not possible, it can't work. So I want you to talk to our students and encourage our students that if they can dream it, they can do it, particularly now with the tools and the access to the information technology, social media, handheld, wireless devices. I mean, I used to have to go to the library and look up an encyclopedia or a yellow page, and they have no idea what that is. But there's no reason that if you can dream it, you can do it now. And there are really no bad ideas, are there?
Nope, it's so true. And I think it goes back to what we started this conversation about, and it's passion. And, if you personally believe in what you're selling, the other person's going to see that and believe it, and the enthusiasm is contagious. And so that's half the battle, I think, is showing up and having the passion for the idea, and then putting everything you got behind it.
Well, it's a funny thing, and you just hit on it, and that's another main thing we want to talk to them about is that if you go into any interview situation or sales situation or pitch situation, or we say all of these internship and job interviews are just glorified auditions. If you've got attitude and passion, that just carries you such a long way in so many ways, and it's something that's actually so simple. But I encounter a lot of students that they don't have that, and how would you, if you were their career coach or professional coach, and a lot of that's going on now, how would you coach them with this? Because it's innate to me and you.
Right. No, I think that it is something that is in all of us. I think at the end of the day, it's super important that you find that spark, that everybody has a passion for something, and that's your calling. and how do you lean into it and bring it to life? Look, I would also tell you that those things I think are the table stakes, and they're what gets you in the door. They're what gets you the first opportunity. And then I think it comes down to progression and how you progress through an organization. I encourage the students, for you guys to really fine tune, hone your skills around effective communication. Communication is so important. I can't underestimate it. And being an effective communicator ultimately leads to leadership. And it's something that, if for those of you that are sophomores and juniors, if you can get into some communication classes, speech classes, it's always uncomfortable for everyone, but to fine tune that skill, it will become a differentiator for you in the long term. And the other piece is, I think, collaboration. I mean, if you're struggling believing in something or finding that passion, find somebody who is on your team that has it and bring them along with you, and let them be the ones that share the idea if that piece just happens to be missing in you. But it's important to continue to have those things, but also begin to develop, and it will develop over time, that effective communication skill, and it'll enable you to just be such a great leader.
Well, and you hit on a couple big points. One is building that trust, and because you've only we've got very few things, and building that trust is one of them, particularly in the successful relationship building and those types of things. But and speaking of trust, one thing that we have heard a lot is the from our guest is the importance of mentors, importance of building those relationships with those mentors, having mentors that are not necessarily going to be just a cheerleader, but really, really tell you the things that you need to hear and need to know in the real world. And I know, for a fact, I mean, you're like one of my mentors and those types of things. And so there's no age consideration in there, but you've had a lot of great mentors. The Coca-Cola Company does an amazing job of mentoring, one another in there. Talk to our kids our students, the importance of seeking out mentors that may be with you for life. Because I know you've probably had a lot of them.
Yeah, I've had 4 or 5, mostly unofficial mentors. But I would tell you that it's important not only to have mentors, but you want to have mentors that advocate on your behalf. It's really important to have a mentor that not just gives you advice, but when there's an opportunity within the organization, that mentor is also saying, this person's the right person for this next opportunity, and these are the reasons why. And I would encourage you to find mentors that motivate you, differently. I'm highly motivated by mentors that certainly seek to understand and then encourage. But I'm also motivated by mentors that challenge me. Maybe it's being the old football player or baseball player, of having a coach coming out there and getting in your face a little bit. But I'm also motivated by mentors that challenge me or put a challenge out there that is such a stretch opportunity that you never thought you could achieve it. And just the power of then, overcoming that and believing in yourself that you can do those types of things is just unbelievable. But find mentors that stretch you, find mentors that encourage you, find mentors that advocate for you. I would also tell you, I think it's important, and this is something we've begun to do at Coke, is to have reverse mentors. And how do you go and find, at least in a case like mine, how do I go and find somebody who's just coming into the business world and learn what's important to that generation, what's important to their friends, and how they interact with our brands, so that I can just become a better marketer. So it kind of goes two ways, and seek to be, as you come out of school, seek to be a mentor to somebody who is in a leadership position that you can share with them, what observations you have with your friends and with your generation.
You're spot on. You're spot on for that. And I think the main thing that you pointed out is that we don't want, we want positive reinforcement, but we don't want cheerleaders or yes people as our mentors. We want to know how we can build and learn and grow.
Yep.
And I think that's, and take that constructive criticism. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit. You've had an obviously amazing, successful career. You are now at the helm, or one of the people at the helm, with the most iconic brand in the world in sports, and Coca-Cola, an ice cold Coke, and attending a sporting event, or the emotional connection there, or watching it at home with family and friends. You interact with all the major players and major hitters in the world. And obviously we're in this really, 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 as we cliche-ish, uncharted waters of COVID, post-COVID world, fanless experiences, and those types of things. But in the perch that you occupy, and knowing you interact with all these amazing people at the networks and the sports organizations and things of that nature, a couple of questions. Where do you see this going long term? And everybody's got a crystal ball right now. And secondly, based on this sort of direction, where do you see the opportunities will lie for our students and our listeners? Because it's interesting. If we've unpacked some amazing things, I'll use the athletic department. We've talked to the athletic directors of Texas A&M and Georgia and Auburn, and we've uncovered even things I didn't think about, like mental health is a growing space within athletic departments, data analytics, trying to figure out how to get fans back in the stands, content creation, name, image, and likeness, and students' ability to use name, image, and likeness, and how they monetize those opportunities, but then the compliance of that within the rules. Fan safety, there's hundreds of events going on the campus any given year. Campus is the ultimate professional lab, but from where you sit as world-class marketer, where would you advise these students? And you've got children in college, and you've had children in college and graduate from college and all that. But if somebody reached out to you, where and what would you tell them?
Yeah, I think the most important thing you can do if you want to work in this space is to network, right? How do you go out and build relationships with a number of people in the industry, and ask people to help make introductions and pick their brain, and opportunities are going to emerge. There's no doubt they're going to emerge. We're going to go through a very challenging time period right now. I'm hopeful that we're going to turn the corner here this fall, but I do believe for us to get completely back, it's probably, as the experts have said, it's probably going to require a vaccine of some sort to get us there. But until that time period, I think there's still a number of great opportunities out there to engage with different companies. And one of the things I would tell you is, don't look at your world to engage in sports marketing as just working with a ball club, or working with a college university, or working with a network. I would encourage, your listeners and your students to think about some of these consumer goods companies. I've listened to a number of your podcasts, and a lot of folks have done a lot of sports marketing from CPG companies. And I would argue from my days at Nabisco, when we were huge sponsors of the Super Bowl, to big sponsors of Major League Baseball. I mean, I got the opportunity at the store level to do sports marketing with the local teams that we had, with the Cincinnati Reds. Heck, one of the cool jobs I had when I first started in Nabisco was I was the guy who was responsible for bringing down all the cookies and crackers down to the ball club, to the ball house, and or clubhouse.
How good was that? You had all these great friends.
Oh, it was unbelievable. And I'll never forget. I was there one day, and the security officer was letting me in, and I was joking around with him that I was bringing in fudge-covered Oreos for Kevin Mitchell, who, if you look up Kevin
Oh
Mitchell,
yeah, oh
he
yeah.
was one heck of a slugger, played left field, and you wouldn't believe it. But as soon as I said that, he's like, "Well, Kevin Mitchell's pulling in right now." So Kevin kind of gets out of his car, and the security guard said, "Hey, he's bringing you your double fudge covered Oreos." He's like, "I didn't order any double fudge covered Oreos." I was like, "This guy's going to kill me."
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm about to get fired right now.
exactly. But the cool thing is, every job I've had at Nabisco or at Coke, I had the opportunity to do sports marketing. And I was a director of marketing in St. Louis. It was one of 4 markets that celebrated the Summer Olympics that year, because there had only been 4 markets in the U.S. that had ever had the Summer Olympics, and St. Louis was one of them. And we had this huge Olympic torch relay that took place in the marketplace. It was just phenomenal. And or going to be a director of marketing in Cincinnati and working with you on a Final Four, both in St. Louis and then back to back in Indianapolis, to working with Kroger, and Kroger getting so excited about the Daytona 500 and engaging in NASCAR, and ultimately getting the first major customer to lean in support of our NCAA sponsorship. So, every role I've had over the past almost 30 years now. Wow. I've had an opportunity to engage in the sports marketing space. So I just would encourage folks, students, to think about, there's so many ways in, whether it's working for a credit card company or going to work for FedEx. I mean, you see what FedEx is doing in the sports space with golf, the FedEx Cup, what they're doing in NASCAR with Denny Hamlin. I mean, it's impressive. So, don't just limit yourself to an opportunity that exists to activate an initiative within the sports world. Think about other ways in, and I'd highly recommend that and encourage that.
Yeah, and when we've had some great guests on, and a lot of them affiliated with the Coca-Cola Company in some way. We had NASCAR president Steve Phelps. He talked about all these amazing opportunities, career opportunities, whether it's putting a race on or working for a sanctioning body, or the sponsor agencies or the sponsor companies or the race teams managing the sponsors or managing the social media. We had the same with Ty Votov of the PGA Tour, and there's thousands of golf tournaments. There's dozens of sanctioning bodies. There's the golfers, the sponsors, the on-site, the management of the event as well, and that's why we're very bullish. And obviously, with the Coca-Cola Company and all the agencies and all the sponsorships, we encourage our kids to really really do their homework and do their research and really understand, not just, hey, I have a love of sports and I want to go to work for Coke, and I love Coke, I want to go to work. Like, really analyze who you are, and really analyze what the company's investing in from a sports perspective, and then how they can bring they can bring potential value to you. And speaking of that, we always like to have this is a good segue into what gets John Mount's attention if a future potential employee or student for a potential internship or entry level job, if they're reaching out to you through LinkedIn or handwritten note or email, or they encounter you at an event and they go up there and take that shot. We talk a lot about taking the shot. What are the things, and we've heard a lot of great answers, but what are the things that get John Mount's attention? Because you get tens of dozens of hundreds of thousands solicitations because you're the head of sports for one of the biggest brands in the world. So what stands out? What gets your attention?
Yeah, I mean, I'd answer it 2 ways. I mean, one is we've really defined what passion points we want to be a part of moving forward. So, if there's an outside solicitation for an opportunity, we've kind of defined the passions that we want to be a part of, and if it has something to do with that, that's going to get our attention. I think for students, trying to break through and spend some time with folks in this space, I would highly recommend you take more shots than less, and go up, introduce yourself, let them know what you do, be engaging, help us be able to see your personality really shine, and be prepared with 2 or 3 really good questions, and be respectful of people's time. But I think that's great coaching that you're giving these students to not be shy of those things. And I don't get to as many of them as I used to, but there's great industry events that are out there that take place almost weekly in a normal environment. And how do you engage in those and show up at those and have an opportunity to talk to some of the people that you'd like to spend some time with and learn from.
And so when they're reaching out to you, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about just a few minutes ago on the sales side, the pitch side, because every reach out, whether it's for an internship or advice or employment, is a form of audition. But you really show your hand really quick if you're not putting that effort in there, or knowing who John Mount is and knowing what the company's mission and what his roles and responsibilities are. You're really showing your hand immediately that they're not going to, this individual's not going to make a very good employee or intern based on the amount of effort and preparation they're doing right then. So they're going to flunk the first audition, right?
Absolutely. And I would tell you, and once you get the opportunity and once you land a job, every single day you got to continue to earn it. You can't rest on your laurels, and your credibility is on the line every single day. And so how do you bring your best self to work every day and continue to put points up on the board? I had one of those mentors that really challenged me in the past. It's not what you did for me yesterday, it's what you're going to do for me tomorrow. But realize that every single day is a big opportunity. I'll never forget when I first started in Nabisco. There was a gentleman who was a part of the Barbarians at the Gate, and he was the CEO at the time, and he came to speak with us, and his name escapes me, but he talked about the gazelle and the lion, and how the gazelle every single day needs to run. They got to wake up and run. Make sure that the lion that they're not the slowest gazelle, and that the lion gets them. And every single day, that lion's got to get up to run if it wants to survive and eat and catch that slowest gazelle. So, every single day I realize you're going to get up to run, and you'll hear the cliches as well that, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. That's true too. Mm-hmm. But some days, it's a sprint.
No, that's one of my favorite. But I love the gazelle and the lion, and I'm not sure which day I'm which, or which day you're which, or with the bug in the windshield and all that. But up to your other point you make, and we tell us kids that, is like, you can't rest on your laurels. I mean, every day, and we tell our students, we tell our employees, like, it's like Coach Bear Bryant said, you got to play like you're 7 points down every day. And that's the thing that people have always asked me about, my relationships with our clients and personal, and 20 years with Coca-Cola. What's the secret? And it's really common sense, and it applies to any form of relationship. But you can't ever take that relationship for granted. You can never. You've got to nurture it. You've got to sow it. You've got to cultivate it, fertilize it, trim it, prune it, give it sunlight every single day. And this has been amazing. So we always like to sort of ask this as a wrap up, and we've heard so many great answers, and not just traditional industry resources, but what are some of the good go-tos, whether they be books or podcasts or publications or sayings? We've heard a lot of great book suggestions. You just mentioned Barbarians at the Gate, which, by the way, is one of my favorite books of all time, about R.J. Reynolds, and just amazing. That is a good book that students should read. We've heard a lot, of John Wooden. Mainly, a lot of our students had probably never heard of John Wooden, but tell us what your sort of go-tos are, and not necessarily in the world of sports, just good for them to know.
Yeah, I mean, I've read a number of different business books throughout my career. I referenced one of them, and I won't remember the exact name of it, but the Michael Eisner's first book that he put out there. I think that that's an important one to, read about some of these leaders, whether it's a Jack Welch, it's Michael Eisner. I think that those leaders that have run great companies, that Phil Knight, and just understanding how they've done what they've done. The other thing that I would tell you that I think is a really important skill to build within, as you read, different different books or listen to different podcasts, pick up on how people tell stories. And storytelling is going to be so important now and into the future. And it's why people gravitate to sports in the space. Everyone loves a great story. Everyone loves the underdog. Everyone loves the great champion that comes back. And I think the more you can read and invest in becoming a great storyteller is going to be a differentiator into the future.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And like I said, I mean, the couple things that we tell them is study the great ones. Whether it's Steve Jobs or Michael Eisner. We've had a lot of references to the Bob Iger book, Chairman CEO of Disney, as well, because the common themes will emerge. They got knocked off of their saddle. Their paths diverged. They failed. They tried things. They got back up on the saddle. The other thing that we tell our kids is, not just read industry publications, but read through and into the industry publications. So they may read, hey, Coca-Cola is going to sponsor an X event, and then they may find you quoted in there, and then they may have an opportunity to reach out to you on LinkedIn or send you a note or send you a resume or something like that. And so that's one big purpose that we've had is like, a lot of the tricks of the trade, because the other thing that our kids lose sight of is that you were once in their shoes. I was once in their shoes. We're still in their shoes, just in a different level and a different, way in space as well. So I think this has been amazing. I guess our listeners, you can tell why John is at the top of his game, head of sports marketing. What an amazing, fun job, but also, navigating what's going on in this crazy sports world and this landscape as well. So John Mount, veteran of the Coca-Cola Company, dear friend, vice president of sports marketing and major assets across the board. Follow him. He's active in social media and a great family man. So he has children and students in college and in the working world. And so, he's very relatable and very approachable. So, John, we really appreciate you joining, not summer, but the ongoing virtual Melt University. And thank you so much for sharing your time, wit, and wisdom and advice with our students and listeners.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vince, and to the whole Melt crew.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. Hope you enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with another edition of Melt University 2020.